Jay-Z's world was jolted once again when Rymir Satterthwaite, the man who has for years claimed to be the biological son of the rapper, posted an emotional Instagram video declaring that he had withdrawn his federal lawsuit. But he didn't stop there. In a firm voice and with a sense of persistence, he told his followers that the fight was far from over. He made it clear that this wasn't the end. This was a strategic move. Before we dive deeper into what really happened behind the scenes and what might happen next, take a quick second and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the rest of this unbelievable story. Rymir explained that his decision to withdraw the case was not because he had given up. According to him, there were major developments happening privately. He emphasized that this wasn't a retreat, but a step in a longer plan. In his words, sometimes you have to play chess, not checkers. It was a cryptic message, but one that hinted there was much more happening that the public couldn't see yet. He looked straight into the camera, with the weight of years behind his eyes, and told his followers that this was not the end of the road. There was no anger in his voice, just determination. The lawsuit may have been pulled from the courts, but the story was far from over. As he thanked those who supported him, it was clear he was trying to steady himself before the next legal round. Meanwhile, News reached out to Jay-Z's representatives for a response. There was no answer. Silence. But court documents spoke volumes. Filed on June 16, the documents revealed that Jay-Z's attorneys were not holding back. They addressed Rymir's paternity claims with firm rejection. They said this wasn't the first time such accusations had been made and that similar claims had already been struck down in multiple courts over the years. The legal team for Jay-Z, whose real name is Sean Carter, went even further. They labeled the repeated claims as harassment that had spanned decades. The words used in the filing showed no room for negotiation. They framed the lawsuit not only as false but also as part of a pattern. Jay-Z's attorneys also pointed out a procedural issue with the federal lawsuit. They claimed it had not been properly served. According to those documents, Jay-Z wasn't even made aware of the federal lawsuit until an entire month after it had been filed. That timing, his lawyers argued, was significant. They requested extra time from the court to fully review and prepare a response to the claims being brought forward. This wasn't just about arguing over biology. The lawyers were framing this case as one about tactics, timing, and legality. Rymir, however, maintained that his lawsuit wasn't about child support. It wasn't even about money, at least not in the traditional sense. His complaint was focused on something much more personal. He claimed emotional distress. He said he suffered harm to his reputation. He accused Jay-Z of manipulating the legal system, of using the courts to silence his voice and bury his truth. He said that his allegations had been twisted, that facts were misrepresented. He accused the other side of interfering with his access to justice. These were not mild accusations. They were direct and heavy. Rymir framed himself as someone who had been denied his chance to be heard fully and fairly. The situation traces back decades. Rymir has consistently claimed that his late mother, Wanda, had a relationship with Jay-Z in the early 1990s. He says that out of that relationship, he was born. Over the years, he has made several legal moves to try and force a paternity test. But each time, the doors have seemed to close on him. For Jay-Z, this legal saga has been a recurring shadow that pops up every few years. But until now, none of those efforts have resulted in a definitive legal requirement for the rapper to take a paternity test. And despite the emotional appeals and public conversations, courts have repeatedly dismissed the efforts as legally insufficient. Even though Rymir has withdrawn this latest case, his message was loud and clear: he will be back. And this won't be the last time the public hears about this story. He continues to believe that there's more to be revealed and that, eventually, justice will lean in his favor. His Instagram post was a sign of that ongoing belief. He wasn't retreating. He was repositioning. This long-standing claim has followed Jay-Z through years of success, through his empire building in business, and through his journey as a family man with Beyoncé and their children. Yet, no court has ever officially declared Rymir to be Jay-Z's son, and no paternity test has ever been publicly confirmed. That alone keeps this story suspended in uncertainty. Rymir's public statements have drawn attention, sympathy, and doubt. But the legal system moves by evidence, not sentiment. And in every previous attempt, judges have found that the claims didn't meet the legal standard required to move forward. That doesn't mean the story is over. Not for Rymir. Not in his mind. He continues to push his narrative forward. With each interview, each video post, and each court document, he's adding to a timeline that he hopes will someday validate his truth. He seems confident that the next move, whenever it happens, will be the most strategic one yet. Jay-Z has never commented publicly about Rymir or these ongoing paternity claims. His legal team has handled the responses, always dismissing them with direct language and thorough filings. The official response has always been that the claims are false, legally baseless, and already resolved by previous court decisions, but Rymir is not going away. Withdrawing the lawsuit was not a goodbye. It was just a pause. He believes his story isn't finished. And he seems to believe that, eventually, his truth will come out. What happens next depends on whether he refiles, what new evidence he brings forward, and how the legal system responds. Until then, it's a story of a man who believes he was denied his name, his father, and his place in the world. And it's also the story of one of the most private figures in music facing a claim that simply will not disappear. If you want more stories like this and exclusive updates as they unfold, don't forget to subscribe right now and stay connected to everything happening behind the headlines.